As predicted, crank lengths are getting shorter in the bike industry. I've been doing bike fitting for just under 20 years, and when I first started fitting, we'd still occasionally see people who had cranks that were, about 180 mil long for some tall riders. In the last 12 months, the shortest crank that I've worked with was getting someone who already had a short crank. They had like a 165 mil crank, had persistent sort of pain-related bike fit issues that we couldn't resolve with a whole bunch of changes. So we did some in-depth pedal stroke analysis with different crank lengths for this rider to figure out what looked good in theory based on the numbers. And where we've ended up with that rider is going from, I think, 165 coming down to 135 millimeters, and that rider can now do some decent training without being limited by pain so much, so is enjoying their riding a lot more. Anyway, expect to see crank lengths maybe not go to 135 mil, but the average crank length on bike will definitely get shorter. When I say definitely, I mean probably get shorter over the next few years. Some of the smaller brands have already reduced the stock crank length on their bike, and the bigger brands will slowly follow. So people who would have ridden 172.5s, you're going to see it become pretty normal for them to ride things like 165s. I think from a fitter's perspective, if cranks are sort of on the longer end for that rider, you're really quite limited in terms of position. You really need to nail the absolute sweet spot. Whereas working with shorter crank lengths, in terms of saddle position, it actually makes it a lot easier from a bike fit perspective. There's more scope to sort of run a seat a little bit higher or a little bit lower with that shorter crank length. It's actually pretty cool, and I think I'm yet to see anyone who has changed to a shorter crank regret it. So, I think they're here to stay.